Laurie Loughlin's daughters are reportedly dropping out of the colleges that their parents allegedly paid off administrators to admit them to. It's the latest development in a scandal that has some rich and famous elite facing prison.
Yeah, it's serious stuff. In case you've been living under a rock, Hollywood actresses Laurie Loughlin and Felicity Huffman are among a group that the FBI claims bribed colleges to accept their kids. Is this a uniquely American story, or does this happen around the world? Is it possible that it could even happen in Australia? For tonight's Taking Stock, we're joined by Chris Urquhart from Immediate Communications and Richard Miles, Pro-Vice-Chancellor at the University of Sydney. Richard, you're probably the one to kick us off on this. Okay. How many celebrities are bribing you to get their kids into uni? We want names, we want numbers, we want to send the FP.
Okay, I've got the whole list.
Send the AFP around.
I think American universities are so different and they make such a meal of university admissions that I can't imagine this kind of thing happening in Australia, because we just don't have the same system. Yeah. I mean, there they've got all manner of different tests. They've got this ACT test, the SATs as well, and all sorts of other things too. I mean, I found the whole thing completely breathtaking.
It is a staggering thing to watch happen, isn't it? I mean, you do kind of wonder, America's a very different place, the merit system. I mean, we've heard of other cases of it being corrupted by money, right?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And also, I mean, here in Australia as well, there are full fee paying places at university, which I always had a little bit of difficulty with, because I kind of think of universities as should be a bit of an egalitarian place. You get in on equal merit, everyone's considered equally in front of the lecturers and the bosses and things like that. So that always troubled me a little bit with the Australian system here. But then in America, everything's on steroids, right? And I got to tell you, I was devastated. I grew up on a diet of Full House, so to think that Aunt Becky, Laurie Loughlin, could do anything wrong.
No,
next thing
she's an angel.
Oh my word.
If Kimmy Gibbler's in there as well, I'm going to be devastated.
Yeah, exactly.
You've also got to think about how much you pay to go to an American university. I mean, you can go to a pretty mediocre one and pay tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. It's like big business. I mean, the extraordinary thing is the number of athletics coaches and tennis coaches that seem to be involved in this.
That was the craziest thing, right? Because we were talking, one of the allegations here is that someone was being paid off to accept somebody into the rowing squad, despite the fact that the people in question had never actually been in a rowing boat before. I mean, surely you're going to get found out, right?
Well, clearly not for a long time. But you have to remember that in university sports in American universities, I mean, like I've told you this before, at the university I worked at, the highest paid person by a mile was the football coach. And he was like a god, right? As soon as he spoke, you know, clear the front pages, etc.
Until you arrived, obviously.
That's very sweet of you to say. and you know, basically, so what used to happen is that, you know, these people are immensely powerful, and so therefore you have all of these sports people that come into the system. And so that's clearly what's been going on, often I think with some lower grades as well. So I think a lot of this is around extracurricular stuff, right? So we have a system which basically rewards you for your academic stuff, right? Not all the other things. In America, they really prioritise you as the all-rounder, and this is where you end up.
And youngsters that are good at football, at basketball, at whatever it happens to be, are shopped around. You know, they can basically have their choice, because the marquee players, when they're at that age, if they can be getting into college football, they then become the NFL players, the NBA players and so forth. So, you know, you can see the level it's at.
Then do they get the good degree that gets them the good job, or does that not matter?
I don't know. A lot of them go into the really good ones, they go into the pro game, because that's what this is. This is kind of like Division 2 before you move up into the Premier League. So they are basically pros. And so this is what's been going on here. You know.
Yeah. Do you think that, Chris, do you think that this story, as incredible as it now is, do you think that it casts a shadow on all rich people in America whose kids have gone to colleges? Do you now wonder, oh, how did you get in?
It's the danger of things like that, right? That, you know, everyone gets tarred with the same brush when a situation like this happens. And I think if the situation, if the whole situation was a lot more transparent, we'd have a lot more confidence in the system as well. And I think, you know, universities should be, you know, the places of academia. If we can't trust that environment, what can we trust? Because, you know, it's supposed to be that search for truth at the end of the day. And looks like in this case we're still searching for the truth.
Has the reaction been a bit disproportionate? I mean, you know, guns drawn and prison sentences and FBI raids. It sounds pretty full on.
Well, I mean, I think there's a bit of sort of envy going on here as well. You know, you want to bring these people down. Tall poppy syndrome. We know all about that here, right? But I mean, so I think that's part of the problem. But actually, you've got a whole system here, a vast system on which America is built. And actually now you find that people are rorting the system.
I think for authorities and law enforcement anywhere, if they can bring down a tall poppy, if they can bring down a celeb or a sports star or things like that and get the publicity from it, it sends a wide message to other people out there in the community doing the wrong thing or doing similar things that we're watching and you could go down just like they have.
Yeah, it's an incredible scandal. We're going to move on to something else now, a bit of a lighter topic. Law firm Herbert Smith Freehills has a system designed to incentivise nice workplace behaviour. Keep your score and pay them more. So this is how they're describing it. Now, every person has 10 points that they give to people who have helped them out at work. And at the end of the year, people with more than 10 points next to their name are awarded. An interesting system. Chris, what do you think?
Look, I don't have kids yet, but when I go over to my friends' houses and go and visit them and have a look on the fridge, there's inevitably a chart up there that has stickers on it that says if they've done good things so far that week. Did you put your school uniform away? Have you packed your lunchbox? Have you mowed the lawn? An extra star goes up there, and eventually, you know, go out for a milkshake or go to the movies on the weekend if you tick all the boxes. And this, to me, felt like the law firm example of that is play nice children and you'll get an reward. I think the lawyer version of a milkshake could be a 50 or 100k bump up at the end of the year. Yeah. But look, the other side to it as well is that law firms can be really difficult places for people to work, particularly for young lawyers that are joining. A lot of pressure in those early years to ride the ladder, to go up the ladder and progress there. And it puts a lot of pressure on young people. It's easy to, you know, take pot shots and have a bit of a laugh. But I think anything in a workplace that fosters a good culture, if it's being thought about and if it is, you know, being cemented in there, is likely a good thing.
Yeah, I think it's a pretty great
It's smart. It's a really smart move, I think, because, I mean, collegiality is massively important. And collegiality is making a comeback. You know, that sort of Gordon Gekko-esque kind of, you know, getting ahead and leaving everyone behind. It doesn't really work in a company like that. You've got to basically have collegiality. And this is a decent way of doing it. But I just wonder if you missed all your targets and then said, hey, but I'm a really nice person, I wonder what would happen.
I always wonder with these things.
Yeah. And it only works if it's anonymous, you know, if you can sort of give you a point and then you'll like me better, you know, like it.
No, you go straight there, you know?
Well,
that's cynical.
I am.
So you're on the chart at your money at the moment.
Well, we might have to institute this. We've got a Lolly Friday thing going on, but we don't go any further than that. No, look, it is interesting. I think, as you said, there are a lot of law firms have a bit of a Hunger Games thing going on. This is potentially a way to bust that wide open. Do you think that other law firms everywhere should be trying to do the same thing, and even other workplaces in general?
If it works, it will proliferate, right?
Yeah. But it only works if everyone's on board. If people go, well, that's lame, I don't want your stupid points, then that could be an issue as well. Now, Australia has a lot of big things. Big banana, big guitar, the big milkshake. You were talking about milkshakes, Chris. The big oyster. The list genuinely goes on. I myself am from the land of the big orange in South Australia. But an artist wants his hometown of Wollongong in New South Wales to have a big wooden bong. The idea has drawn a mixed response. I heard a comedian once say that his town should have a big pregnant teenager. I mean, how far do we take this this theme? Is a big wooden bong really stretching the friendship with celebrating what's good about your town?
But this place is somewhere near Nimbin, isn't it?
I think it might be. It's not New South Wales, so yeah.
A big wooden bong would come in handy.
In the artist interview, I think it would have been very, very close.
You could smell Nimbin from wooden bong.
Yeah, so in other words, there could be a bit of a symbiotic relationship.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's this question about the big things. Do you think this fits in, or do you think it's a bit of a stretch?
Look, the big things were one of the highlights of a child's vacation, you know, when you're driving up the coast and you go past the big prawn and get to the big banana and you knew it was take a left at the big pineapple or whatever, and we were nearly there. And this was in the days cars weren't air conditioned and things like that. So anything that broke up the journey was a good thing. Look, he's having a bit of laugh. It brings attention to the town. I don't want to be the fun police here, but this name, as I gather, is an Indigenous name that has, you know, connections to the local community there from many years ago. So although we can have a bit of a laugh, I don't know whether we just want to be having a laugh at the culture in that way. And that aside, even if we were, you know, are we opening a Pandora's box of place names here in Australia? Because on a trip to Queensland, I drove past Bald Knob once, and I don't want to see anything big or small in that department.
Yes, true. There's a couple of good ones, but we interviewed a real estate agent on this show who was from Watanabe. Which is another, you know, you got to stop at a certain point. But there was a good point about the Indigenous name of the place. I think it actually meant duck on water,
as I gather,
which is a much more beautiful thing to associate with it than something like that. Yeah, Richard, thoughts on this?
Well, I suppose it might market the town or something like that.
Well, yeah, that's the
thing. It's
unimaginative,
isn't it?
It is a bit. It's going straight for it. Do you think it would increase tourism?
Well, a certain type of tourist maybe, but whether they would spend a lot of money, that's another matter, right?
I think the general store would sell out of Tim Tams that afternoon.
Yes, that's true. OK, well, we'd better leave it there. Thank you very much, Richard Miles and Chris Urquhart. Thank you very much for joining us here, for taking stock here on Your Money Live.